got going on here, Bermuda's only energy station. We're bouncing, we're moving, we're grooving, we're doing everything we need to. This morning in studio guests, I've got a young lady here who's head of HR. And I've got a guy here, this gentleman here, no stranger. You heard he laugh. You knew who that he is. It's Mr. Dean. I'm going to say Mr. Dean this morning.
Yes, greetings.
Yes, he is representing the Freedom Alliance this morning. And the young lady here is also I said also. I take that back. She is representing HR in the hospitality industry.
Good morning.
Yes. Misha, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Dean, good morning to you.
Yes, greetings. Give thanks.
Right. And you're obviously here you're not here just to chill out with me this morning. So if we're going to get into what talks are being brought forth as far as the hospitality industry and...
Yeah, we're talking about SafeKey. And Misha is here to really talk about, explain what it is and the impact on the hospitality industry and just some concerns that she has from an HR perspective.
Because this is obviously the field that she's in. So you have a little bit more information that you can share with the listeners that we may not know on the inside. So Mish, you've been on radio before, yes?
Yes.
All right, so you're good with it. You can talk to the people this morning.
Okay. So the SafeKey initiative, I think it was launched last weekend. And it's basically a code that allows the person who's been vaccinated or who has tested negative for COVID-19 to be able to participate in larger events or have in-room dining in restaurants. And basically that person will receive a code. A QR code. And they will show up to the restaurant and the restaurant will scan them in. They will provide identification to make sure the name on the code is the name that they're presenting. And it'll have an expiration date as well. And based on that code, the person can dine indoors. And the same restrictions that applied for outdoor dining will apply for in-room dining. So 6 people to a table, 6 feet apart, a mask.
So, just a question, forgive my ignorance. So you're saying with that SafeKey, that's strictly for indoor dining, or is the outdoor dining allowed as well? How's that work?
At this time, it's strictly for indoor dining.
Oh, okay.
So when you go on the government website and you Google SafeKey, it basically explains that it is for events or conditions that are, I'm trying to find the right word, that are high risk.
Okay.
And so to alleviate those high risks, they've created the SafeKey program so that persons can dine with just less risk for that experience. And so it's very tailored at this time. And so as local transmissions decline, then the SafeKey eventually, I believe, will go away. So that's what SafeKey is.
And just for the record, you're saying that's what you're thinking may happen?
No, that's what SafeKey is. Oh, may happen, yes, in regards to...
not having it.
Yes. So right now, SafeKey, I think, is being used for in-room dining and May 24th. Those are the two things that I know definitely it's being used for. Well,
see, if you guys had any qualms or any issues or any thoughts if Misha was Bermudian or not, she very much is, for the fact that she just said May 24th instead of Bermuda Day. That's what we do. That is what we do. We say 24 for me. That's what we do. But that's just had to off the topic that real quick. But bringing forth again. So that's what to. The question is what are your concerns? Like what would one of your concerns be?
So originally, for me as an HR professional, one of my first concerns were, do my staff also have to have a SafeKey in order to work indoor dining? Because for us, we have to be mindful of, how this impacts our staff. Does it create any issues where staff who are not vaccinated have to get tested every 3 days? What does that do for our work schedule? Do we have to start dividing people into zones? And so those were our initial questions that, we got some answers for, which kind of alleviated some of those concerns. The other concern is the fact that for restaurants, we are being challenged because what we find is that our industry for almost 2 years was not able to operate at its maximum capacity.
Yeah.
So every time there was a change, it required us to reduce operations, which meant reducing revenue. So
And reducing staff.
and reducing staff.
Yeah.
So in 2020, when we had the shelter in place, for my company, we laid off everyone. This year, when we had the 1 week, we laid off everyone.
Okay.
But everyone's not back to work yet. And so
Are there requirements for those people coming back to work? That's the question.
yes, there will always be requirements for you to, basically when you come back into work, we will check in with you to make sure you haven't traveled, to make sure that you are fit and able to come into work. So we do check in, but, there's a privacy issue as well, which is, we are not able to ask our staff for their COVID tests. We're not able to ask them for the vaccine, nor do we want to, because that's a privacy issue.
Yeah, it is a privacy.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do you move forward from that?
So we have drafted policies within our company that basically says if you're sick, please stay home. If you travel, don't come back to work until 14 days. So we've created policies in place, but the challenges that we really face are not internal to us as a company. The challenges that we're facing is external. So you have customers that come in, and the example I'm about to give to you is a real example. I'm not making this up.
Okay.
So you have customers that will come in and they will say, I want to deal with a vaccinated server. I don't want an unvaccinated server to serve me. So you have to mitigate that and be like, that's a privacy issue. You can't ask the server if they're vaccinated or unvaccinated. All our servers are fit to work. You have restaurant groups that are expressing that we have 100% vaccinated staff, or we have 75% vaccinated staff. But the challenge is, how do you know that? You would have to ask your staff if they're vaccinated or unvaccinated, which you're not supposed to be doing. And then you have other challenges where, you throw an event and the person you throw in the event for is asking for, hey, I want only vaccinated people to work at my event. Again, how do you know someone's vaccinated? You can't ask those questions. So we have a lot of challenges on those sides, especially as HR professionals. We're being challenged a great deal. And I've spoken to all the HR professionals across various industries, and they have a plethora of challenges that they face because of this, because it's a lack of clarity in what can and cannot be done. And I think when there is no clarity, that people create their own policies.
So the question I would ask right now is that, so when information has been given as far as the dining and how we move for our day-to-day, that isn't explained to you in detail as, whatever part of the industry you're in? Like we get a conference or anything like that, that's been explained, and what details are given to you?
So basically the same details that are given to us is what everyone else hears on the news. And then we would have to, through the Chamber of Commerce or just through the HR professional, we would have to go seek out clarifications so that we're able to do our jobs. And then we will circulate that clarification to the group. So the group is aware, so we're at least doing everything in alignment. But even with that being said, there are examples, and I'll give you another example. So I'm not sure if you remember the case where a lady expressed she was standing outside a marketplace when we had the stay-at-home order, and it was alphabetical day, and she had her grandson. And she wanted to go into the marketplace with her grandson to buy him a meal, and the managers told her she could not bring her grandson. That was not a policy from government. That was
in the private sector.
Yes,
Okay.
It was marketplace making a decision for themselves, specifically as to how they're going to use the regulations and apply them to their own company. And their decision wasn't correct. And, she challenged it, and it was discovered that it wasn't correct. And of course, they changed it. But that's what happens all the time in the private sector. It's the matter of, information is provided, but it's not always clear. And so companies are now left to kind of navigate that ambiguity, and they don't always do it very well. And so there have been violations of people's privacy and people's rights, and not because the company intended to, I would hope not, but sometimes they just don't know how far they can take it. And so out of an abundance of caution, they create policies that may, from the onset, look as if it is great, but it may disenfranchise somebody or a group of people.
All right, so what you're saying is that policies are given, policies are put out there, we all hear them. You and your sector, whatever private sector, they're like, okay, well, to be extra safe or extra cautious, because we don't want to have to shut down or anything like that, we're gonna implement this. But it's not law. It hasn't been put in mandate. We haven't checked anything out. So we're gonna go through, and then what happens then for the consumer? Like how do we remedy that? How is that remedy? Would you consider a remedy on your side? On your side?
So now I'm just going to speak from where I work. The remedies that we put in place is always being checked with government agencies. So if we want to create a policy, we will email the Department of Health, the Minister of Health, the PS of Health, and clarify points. And just say, can you please explain to me my best approach if I would like to do A, B, C, and D? And then they'll come back, and usually they'll give us really great advice, and then we'll take that advice and we'll use that as our principle, as like our foundation for our decision-making process. Not everyone does that. And so then the challenge is that, you're creating these policies internally that are not the best, but you don't know that they're not the best until someone challenges it, and your staff may not challenge it, your customers may not challenge it, because everyone's kind of uncertain.
Right.
Yes, yes,
yeah. So what I'm hearing all the time, and this is something that I've expressed publicly already, is that when you start to implement policies that are discriminatory, history has proven that you have unintended consequences. So that's what I'm hearing from Misha, is that policies are being stated, and then the private sector is left to try to navigate those policies and fill in the gaps where there's ambiguity, and then there's challenges because, different issues are popping up that, you weren't even aware of. So it's all these unintended consequences. And then I also spoke publicly about if you have discriminatory mandates being put in place, that encourages others in the community to discriminate. So now you actually have people coming into the private sector asking, right, for them to discriminate with their staff. If you're singling out one group of people versus another. So I guess my question to you, Misha, is like, now with the rollout of SafeKey, what are some of the other challenges, like directly, that the kind of hospitality industry you feel is facing as a result of that?
So one of the challenges I think is going to happen is historically people like to just walk into restaurants. You're out with your friends, right. You may have went to a movie, or you may just be out chilling, and you're like, you know what, let's get a bite to eat, and you're like, okay, let's pick a restaurant. I see a challenge in that being easy anymore. So, and then there's a challenge of the SafeKeys for indoor dining, and so outdoor dining is for the persons who don't have SafeKey. And so the challenge now becomes, okay, if a person has a SafeKey, are they only allowed to eat inside, or can they eat outside too? And so if they do eat outside, that takes away space from anyone else who doesn't have a SafeKey, who cannot eat outside
or cannot eat inside.
Right. Correct. Yeah. And so those are some of the challenges. So it's going to be a huge shift for us, because the restaurant industry needs people to come to restaurants and dine.
Facts.
And what this is doing is actually creating, it's reducing.
It's a deterrent.
Yeah, it's a deterrent. It's reducing the possibility of you maximizing as many people that can dine with you at one time. And you're making it so that it creates barriers or hurdles for people to jump over. So could you imagine, before you go out, you had to, do I have my SafeKey? Did I get tested in 3 days? Is my SafeKey expired or is it not? Okay, do I have my mask? Okay, do I have my keys? Do I have my wallet? And then you're like, which restaurant am I going to eat at? Should I call ahead, or do I have to call at a certain time? Do I need to make reservations? Can I walk in? So those are things that now it becomes so many different things that you have to consider just to eat a meal outside.
Yes, right. Like I don't really, like I wanted to eat dinner at the restaurant. No, I gotta hit Sargasso up, and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you had to do that before curfew. And so there's all the considerations that when national policies like these are rolled out, we have about 63,000 people. Every single circumstance for every single individual that lives in this country cannot realistically be considered. And so the challenge is that now this is out there, and now it's going to have to evolve for all these variances, all these circumstances, all these different situations. It has to evolve, because
it will have to evolve.
It will have to. I hope that it evolves, because it will be difficult for everyone involved for it to stay just as it is. Because anyone who's unvaccinated now has to go every 3 days to be tested in order to do a activity that they naturally used to do before this happened.
So the other thing I'm seeing is that now it's like the industry has to police it. So you actually have to be the people who turn people back.
Yeah.
So when a group shows up, you have to be you're the one who has to say, well, actually, the fifth and sixth person, like, you can't come in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what's that? You know what I mean? That's like another responsibility. And then again, you're looking like, so essentially you're becoming the police.
Yes, and it's uncomfortable.
Well, I would say you're coming to police. They're policing.
You're policing you're having to police the scenario.
According to the policies of their establishment. You know what I mean? I mean, of course, adhering to what, it's been put in place. The policies have been put in place, but also the policy of the establishment. So it all has to come together. It all has to, you have to come to, like, it has to be a medium.
It does. And I guess the biggest challenge is not just policing it, but it's dealing with the conflict that comes with it.
Right.
So and again, the same example of somebody coming in with their SafeKey, say their SafeKey expired, and they're like, I booked a reservation, but their SafeKey has expired. You have to deal with that.
I was looking forward to that prime rib. Don't play with me. Don't play. There's roast potatoes. Don't play with me. Right. It's a situation that could happen.
It is a situation that could happen. Or somebody coming in and demanding that everyone that they're dealing with is completely vaccinated. Or just people coming in and not having a SafeKey and just having to go through that process of explaining to somebody, you could only sit over here, you can't sit over there. Because the response you're going to get once you're now the person who has to apply the policy, administer the policy, you're going to get a range of different responses. And so one of the responses you can get is, oh, but I'm paying the same meal for this person. Why can't I sit in the air conditioner? Why do I have to sit outside? And then, it becomes very uncomfortable very quickly for
you saying that just now made me feel uncomfortable just thinking of that scenario. Like, oh Lord, I wouldn't want to be there. I wouldn't want to be there.
Exactly. And so what should have been a relaxing experience for you to sit back with friends now becomes stressful and hostile. So for our staff, they're going to be dealing with stressful situations, dealing with people that are probably stressed out as it is, and just feeling like, they're just ready to just go off on somebody. And there's a lot of people walking around like that right now that's, they're just at their boiling point.
Well, in the current climate of, everything that is going on right now, I'm going to say that, because, I'm Captain Neutral around here. But everything that is happening right now, the mental health of those, it's just so many things, right? But I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen right now. I'm gonna just play a couple of these tunes. I'm gonna come back in with Misha and Eugene this morning, because at the end of the day, let's be honest, tomorrow is what have better been 24th of May, not Bermuda Day, 24th of May. We're gonna be right back, my good people. Keep it locked. What a vibe sound good too, right? Can't even deny this situation this morning, my good people. All songs of Dean Fraser right now. Out of the King Jamis studio. What you know about King Jamis? Pioneer. You know what I mean? Cox and Dodd and all them, this studio one and all of that. Yeah. I got time for it. What about you? You got time for it too? Of course you do, people. It's Throwback Thursday as we enter inside the things called Even More Tune for the people right now. But in the meantime, I've got Misha here representing. She's the HR in the what we call the hospitality industry. And of course, I've got Eugene in here, who is representing the Freedom Alliance this morning here on Vibe 103. A few conversations to be had. If you've missed anything, the general conversation right now is talking about the policy of the SafeKey and different concerns one may have who is in the hospitality industry. And just to recap, different things have been put in place for those of you who may know. And this is coming from an actual source right now. It's not the hearsay, because you know what happens way too often, if you ask me. It's a personal thing. There's too many reporters out there. We've got so many reporters. We've got so many people who hear something and run with it. But this is not that case at all. This is actually an HR in the hospitality industry, and these are different concerns that she has with the SafeKey. And well, I'll say Gene is here to facilitate representing the Freedom Alliance. So Gene, what's up, bro?
Well, give thanks and thank you everyone who's tuned in. You know, I guess, you know, I was asked to assist with this because, as you said, there is a lot of hearsay, and people put a lot of things out there that, you know, unfortunately are not true. And so I guess my role and responsibility is to help to bring clarity to the positions that the Freedom Alliance takes, you know, and primarily is pushing back on any policies or mandates that engage discrimination, you know, and unfortunately that's a scenario that's increasing within the community. It's spilling into the community in a way that people are becoming separated. Lines are being drawn through families, friends, work colleagues. People's employment is being impacted and things of that nature. And so we're just having conversations and talking about like how we can get beyond the concerns we have and the things that we have to address without discriminating, you know. So I know Mish. Now you got me. Chubb's got me calling you Mish.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's the radio personality.
That's the radio personality. Yeah. So Misha, I know that, you know, their dates were set early and about what was going to happen in the hospitality industry. I believe it was around June 6th.
Yeah.
June 6th seems to be a telling date for a number of things, but just focusing on that, what was your understanding of what was presented initially, and what's the difference between what's actually happening now? Okay.
So when we did our recent stay-at-home order, and the announcements came out, is that Bermuda will go through rephasing, and we'll go through phase 1 to 3, and in each time more privileges or more socializing will be permitted. So for phase 1, for the restaurants, we got curbside, and that lasted until I want to say May. And then for phase 2, al fresco dining, outdoor dining was permitted. Of course, with the necessary restrictions of wearing a mask, 6 feet, and 6 persons to a table.
Everything that everyone knows, like basic across the board rules.
Yes, and so those rules stayed in place. And the next level was phase 3, where in-room dining could be permitted, and that was just be for June 6th. So the industry has been waiting for June 6th because we still have staff that are on layoff. Because, you know, if you're doing al fresco dining, you don't need all your staff. Right. Your footprint number will be smaller because you only could use a portion of your restaurant. Even though you're paying the overhead for the remainder of it, you can only use a portion of it. And so everyone was waiting to say, okay, June 6th, we can start to see these numbers shift. Hopefully there's more confidence in our consumers and our patrons that they come out and be able to dine with us, because that's the other thing that you have to be mindful of. Consumer confidence, especially for a industry that deals with people and is centered around socializing.
Absolutely.
Right. And so even though June 6th would have come, what would happen, the confidence of the consumer would have to build up, and that usually takes a couple of days to a week before you start seeing people feel more comfortable dining inside.
Yes.
So with the SafeKey, which we didn't really know about until we heard it on the news coming about, is now saying that, well, in-room dining will occur under certain restrictions. And the restrictions for in-room dining will be SafeKey, which again requires vaccinated persons to have it up until, I think, June 15th, and unvaccinated persons to go get tested every single week. So for us, it's just another hurdle where we were expecting to be able to say to our remaining staff
to get some type of normalcy
exactly
again. Right, yeah.
To say, come back to work, let's try to get ourselves wrapped up for the summer season, which we're hoping will be a great season for the industry. That hasn't happened. And so again, it's just kind of like, okay.
So you're saying this is a way it affects.
Yes.
It does affect on the numbers as far as staffing and things like that.
Yes, it affects the anticipated numbers, forecasted numbers. Because this is an industry. It is designed to generate revenue, generate profits, and so no one goes into this just without anticipating what their sales should be in order for them to pay their rents, pay their staff. Everyone projects what they're gonna earn. And so if you had a projection before June, before you heard about SafeKey, you're gonna have to adjust that whole projection.
Of
It's
course.
gonna impact how many staff you bring back. It's gonna impact the livelihood of those staff and their ability to generate enough money to pay bills, mortgages, rents. And so those are the things that
It's like the trickle down effect. I
yes,
think.
and it's something that we didn't anticipate. Not all of us anticipated it, and so it's just it's just a little bit discouraging.
Discouraging, yeah, because even for me, just as someone in the community, I'm still trying to say, okay, so what is this? So all of a sudden we're using SafeKey. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It seems like all of a sudden it was just dropped.
Yeah.
And I'm figuring, I'm pretty, I guess, tech savvy. I'm pretty kind of like engaged in the community and aware. So if I'm not clear on it, what about most other people?
So what you're basically, if I can try to figure this out or try to decipher it right now for our listening audiences, Gene, what you're saying is that you would rather have this implemented from the beginning or something explained from the beginning as we're about to like open up a little bit. You would rather have had this explained or broken down. So because what I'm taking from Misha is that if that was implemented from the time before we're given the date of June 6th to open up or anything like that, if you were given that time, you would be able to restructure and put things in their respectful places. So what I'm hearing is like it's been dropped on you.
It's been dropped on everyone
rather than it's been okay. I
Yeah.
didn't say everyone. I'm talking about you and I right now.
Right. Okay. All right.
You and I,
Thanks.
come on. Jeez, goodness, give me a break. So you would rather have this, introduced, and then okay, in this time, this is what's going to happen. Would you have rather that happen?
Yeah, definitely. What I'm saying, I mean, Misha's just explained that, dates were given, targets were given. So everybody's in a constant state of flux. Everyone's having to be flexible to try to navigate, particularly in the private sector, but everyone. So you're given projections. You make the adjustments, you start to make plans, you put things, and then at the 11th hour, something else is thrown into the mix. And now you're saying, okay, not only is that new, but now that kind of affects everything that was set up before. And I'm just saying from a community perspective, the time from first hearing this mentioned and to it being implemented, it's been like rapid pace, unless I'm missing something, which I could, but it really just feels very quick because I'm not even sure who agrees with it, who understands it, and the sense is like, well, does it even matter, or is it just like who even decided that this is in the best interest of the country? That's all not clear.
All right. Well, Misha, this is the question I have for you, Misha. What would you? I mean, not to put the pressure on. What would you like to see happen? What would you like to see come of this? Like, what would you, how would you like to see this, for the betterment?
So for me to speak on behalf of every single industry person will just be exactly what Eugene expressed. A group of people making a decision for a whole bunch of people without any collaboration. The reality is that I think what the industry may want, it has to come with some type of collaboration between the industry partners and the government and whomever else needs to have a say in it. I think ideally what any company, any industry will really want is to be able to navigate itself or regulate itself so that it could just stay viable. Yeah,
I mean, because at the end of the day, you gotta remember, we all individually have the responsibilities. That our leaders, they have a responsibility on their side too that comes through. So it's all about a ranking system. So what I'm hearing from you is that you feel that as the industry itself, because at the end of the day, I'm still part of this industry too. Don't get it twisted, people. Don't think I'm just saying what I'm. Because I'm part of this. I'm a DJ. I'm an entertainer.
yeah, for real. Yeah, we're all impacted.
Well, it's all the things. So it's not just me just saying because I feel like saying it. But what I'm saying right now is that the conversation needs to be had instead of, I would say, what I feel is that you're being dictated, like you're being told what to do instead of seeing how can we get together and
decide what's best.
make this work together. So I think that's what is that what you're looking for? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, so I'm just gonna be very clear. To some extent, that is the case for all of us. Because at the end of the day, when a decision is made, usually when we find out about changes in the regulation, it's told to us a day before.
A day before?
Yeah. No, I mean, when we hear the press conferences, it's usually a day before, 2 days before. It's very little time for people to adjust themselves. What I think will be best, and this is from just me as a person.
That's you speaking on your behalf.
Speaking on my own behalf.
Yes.
What I think will be best, where it can be done, is more collaboration, as particularly with industries like the hospitality industry that have a lot of things that they need to do to adjust, to shift.
Yeah.
They're not as flexible as every other industry. You know what I mean? So if you say we're gonna have a stay-at-home order, if that's the case, some industries, they can be like, oh, that's nothing. Just take your computer, take your laptop, go home,
You work from people who can work from home.
Right, who can just work from home. For our industry, we have to go look at produce that needs to be thrown away. We need to go look at staff that needs to be laid off. The wrap up for me doing my layoff letters, it took me a day to lay off 100 plus staff, a whole day to write their letters and send it out to them, and then to help them with applying for financial support during the time. And even now, I have to do that almost every week to make sure people are getting paid, me as an individual. And so the repercussions of some of these decisions are not always understood, how complex they are and how deep they will go down. So moving forward, I think collaboration with industry stakeholders to say, okay, and the right people, not just someone because they're a name.
Not just anybody.
Right, but the right people that will understand the complexities of what will happen when a decision is made, and to give them enough time so that they could move with the adjustment or the change in such a way that they're not completely disenfranchised.
Okay.
And I think that's really important. And I know some people listen to this would be like, what's the complaint about half a loaf is better than no loaf, because, you can have SafeKey so now people could dine in, and so you guys should feel great. And to some degree, I could definitely understand that. And I think that's why a lot of the restaurant groups are actually going ahead with SafeKey, because their mindset is, well, I can't keep my doors shut. I'm still going to pay bills.
We still got to survive.
I still have to survive.
Something has to happen.
Exactly. But to get into the mindset of saying, I'm only doing something because I have to. I'm not I'm not being engaged in the conversations. I'm not participating in any of this. And so I feel like the only recourse I have is just to do it. But it's not to say, hey, you know what, this is not really working for me. Can we negotiate or discuss a better alternative for me, for my company, for my industry, for my staff, for my community? I think that needs to be done a little bit more and a lot better.
A little bit more efficient with those works. Yes, I mean, and that's the, I believe, Gene?
Yeah, Mish, I think that's very well said.
What I was talking about, like, if that's what needs to be discussed. That's the discussion that needs to be had. You know what I mean? I understand the plight of those on this side of the Freedom Alliance. And the thing is like, at the end of the day, as a neutral source, all I can ask and all I can require of people is that if you're gonna make your voices heard, to do it respectfully, of course. You know what I mean? I know that on some people's behalf, they feel that they've been disrespected, just blatantly disrespected or disregarded with that. But what I can say on this side of things is that if you want to make your voice heard, and I've always said this, and do you know this expression too? You know what I mean? You will catch more flies with honey than you would with vinegar.
Yes.
And some cases it come in like rice, vinegar, balsamic, and everything else like that. So what I would require, what I would on everybody's side, not on this side or that side, on everyone's side, is just to respect each other.
Yes.
And at least hear each other out without criticizing or downplaying one's notions or anything of the sort. I need you guys to know that this is one island. You know what I'm saying? Like, what restaurant's gonna be open if nobody wants to go there at all for whatever reason? Like, you know what I mean? So people, what I would request of you or require of you is to please just to listen to each other. You don't have to agree. The thing is, we're humans. Like, husbands and wives don't always agree. Siblings don't always agree. Best friends don't always agree and not always want to agree, but you stay friends or whatnot. Well, what I require is of you to respect each other with it at the end of the day. Like, and I have to say this, because I know some people listening right now like, I can't believe this is happening. You guys always on it. Nah, me ain't doing that. Because here at Vibe on the 3, and I'm making this quite clear right now, as a neutral station, we will accept these talks. We would have you up, Eugene, representing the Freedom Alliance. We will have, anyone from the government who want to come in and express whatever, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out there for all the listeners this morning. You all are hearing it. I'm gonna have to say this again. I'm gonna be like the parent. Don't let me tell you again. Don't make me tell you to take off the slipper. You know what I mean? Come on, people. This is what I'm requiring of you. And this morning's talk, this morning's conversation, I respect and I rate that, Misha. I'm gonna call you Misha. I'm gonna call you Misha right now. Like, I ain't gonna say Mish. Like, hey Mish. Like, no, I'm gonna say hey Misha. Right? I'm gonna say that to you right now because the concern has been put out there, and it's was put out there intelligently. The intellect was everything about this was absolutely good. Gene, you didn't give me a Malcolm X speech this morning. I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you too, fam.
Give thanks,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
the points were being made. The points were put across. Like, all that's being required right now is that, can we have the conversation before you just put something on the stove? Like, you know what I'm saying? You got to know. You got to boil the water first.
Yeah.
You don't just put the macaroni in.
Yeah, for real.
A little bit of oil in it too, you know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to stick them together. Like, you don't want to. That analogy is a little different. Some people who know how to cook understand what I said just now. Some people like, I don't get it. You boil your water first. Anyway, that is what's been said this morning. Misha, thank you for representing HR in the hospitality industry, and it's one of our that's our industry.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And we live, we thrive, we love going out to eat. Shout out to Sargasso, but sometimes I want to go to the restaurant too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
Gene,
real.
shout outs to you as well. You are representing the Freedom Alliance this morning, and you've brought through you've brought out different questions that needed to be answered. From Misha,
right
on that side. You know what I'm saying? Because certain things we're still looking for clarity in certain situations. It's all right. That will happen. But as far as you being here, we send a big thank you as well for taking your time. And one time to the cameraman, he got mashed up my light. You know what I'm saying? Big ups to you too. You have a great one too, fam. But any closing?
Yeah, I would just say further to your comments about people having differences and still remaining friends or still working together and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
Not only is it a thing where you can disagree and still get along, it's actually that process of bringing different views to the table gives us the opportunity to come up with solutions that actually address the concerns of all the people involved. So the reality is that without that type of engagement, you don't really reach your full potential. So when you have a scenario where things are coming from one side and there is no engagement with other parties, actually it weakens your approach because you don't get the benefit of what comes out of, okay, so all right, Chubb, before I started talking to you, I actually felt really sure about what I was bringing to the table. But now that you've brought up these concerns, all right, so what do you think we can do? And then next thing we have all these views. Misha comes in, she has her views, and then we come up with like, wow, none of us ever imagined that before.
We did it together. And that's all people are looking for, is that they're equal. Big shout out to you, Eugene.
Thank you. Give thanks.
I just gave you the credit for not giving a Malcolm X speech, bro. I'm going to hold you to it this morning. Misha, thank you so much. We're going to get back into a few of these tunes this morning, people. Hey, one time to your thank you listeners out there. You're listening. Shout out to my boy Kip right now. He's tuning in. Twitch family. Yo, we did it to win it this morning.